Okay, so today we're diving into leadership, which isn't just about having authority. It's truly an art, a philosophy, and a practice rooted in wisdom. Throughout history, the best leaders showed us that good governance comes not from dominating, but from understanding, inspiring, and leveraging people's strengths. And guess what? Stoicism, that ancient philosophy focused on reason, self-discipline, and virtue, offers incredible insights into both leadership and talent management. Think about Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. They all highlighted self-awareness, justice, and adaptability, qualities that are absolutely crucial for any leader. A Stoic leader doesn't let ego or impulse drive their actions. Instead, they cultivate clear judgment, emotional resilience, and a deep understanding of human nature. In this essay, we will explore 7 critical lessons on talent management through the lens of Stoicism. These principles, ranging from recognizing strengths and weaknesses to balancing firmness with flexibility, are timeless guidelines for leaders who seek to build strong, loyal, and high-performing teams. By applying Stoic wisdom, modern leaders can navigate challenges with wisdom, foster trust, and create environments where individuals thrive. Whether you are a corporate executive, a political figure, or an emerging leader, these lessons will help you refine your approach to leadership, ensuring that you lead not just with authority, but with wisdom and integrity. Lesson 1. Understanding each individual's strengths and weaknesses. The foundation of effective leadership in the Stoic tradition begins with a profound truth articulated by Epictetus. First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. This principle extends directly to talent management. Before we can effectively lead others, we must first understand them completely. The Stoic leader approaches this understanding not as an administrative task, but as a philosophical discipline, requiring daily practice and reflection. Marcus Aurelius modeled this approach in his Governance of Rome. His meditations reveal a leader constantly examining both his own nature and those around him with remarkable objectivity. When you wake up in the morning, he wrote, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. This wasn't cynical pessimism, but rather clear-eyed preparation to work with human nature as it is, not as we wish it to be. The modern leader can apply this same mindset when assessing team members' capabilities. Practical implementation of this principle occurs on 3 levels. First, systematic observation replaces snap judgments. The Stoic leader develops what Seneca called the ability to see things as they truly are, by maintaining detailed records of each team member's performance across different situations. Second, structured reflection transforms these observations into insight. Just as Marcus Aurelius ended each day examining his own actions, the Stoic leader reviews how team members responded to various challenges. Third, strategic deployment matches individuals to roles that amplify their strengths while minimizing exposure to their weaknesses. Historical examples demonstrate this principle's power. Consider how Julius Caesar built his legendary military machine. He maintained meticulous records of each centurion's performance, noting not just battlefield courage, but logistical acumen, leadership under stress, and ability to inspire troops. This allowed him to deploy commanders with surgical precision, placing aggressive leaders where breakthroughs were needed, defensive experts where positions must be held, and diplomatic types where allied tribes required careful handling. Modern neuroscience confirms the wisdom of this Stoic approach. Research shows that performance improves dramatically when people operate in their strength zones, areas where natural talent meets developed skill. Gallup's extensive studies reveal that employees who use their strengths daily are 6 times more likely to be engaged at work. The Stoic leader, by systematically identifying and deploying these strengths, creates this engagement naturally. The process of strength identification follows 4 Stoic practices. The discipline of perception, observing team members without emotional filters or confirmation bias. This means looking beyond first impressions to see true patterns of performance. The discipline of analysis, breaking down complex capabilities into component parts. Rather than labeling someone a good salesperson, the Stoic leader identifies specific strengths like objection handling, relationship building, or closing techniques. The discipline of context, recognizing that strengths are situational. A detail-oriented analyst might excel in quality control but struggle in brainstorming sessions. The discipline of application, matching strengths to organizational needs with precision. This requires understanding both the individual and the requirements of each role or project. The benefits of this approach compound over time. As leaders develop deeper understanding of their teams, they can anticipate problems before they arise. They know which team members will complement each other on projects. They recognize when someone is operating outside their strength zone before performance suffers. Most importantly, they create an environment where people feel truly seen and understood, a powerful driver of engagement and loyalty. Implementation begins with simple practices. Maintain a strengths journal, tracking observations about each team member. Conduct regular one-on-one conversations focused on when employees feel most and least effective. Create opportunities for team members to self-assess their strengths. Experiment with small adjustments in responsibilities to test strength hypotheses. The Stoic leader remembers Epictetus's reminder that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This active listening, to both words and performance, forms the foundation of true understanding. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, allowing the leader to deploy their most powerful resource, human talent, with maximum effectiveness. Ultimately, this principle transcends mere management technique. It embodies the Stoic ideal of seeing reality clearly and acting in accordance with nature. When we understand our team members' true natures, their unique combinations of strengths and weaknesses, we honor their humanity while fulfilling our responsibility as leaders to achieve the organization's purpose. This alignment of individual capability and organizational need represents leadership at its highest Stoic expression. Lesson 2. Hiring talent, regardless of background. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a revolutionary approach to talent acquisition that challenges centuries of social stratification. Seneca's profound assertion that virtue is the only nobility dismantles artificial hierarchies of class, race, and social standing with remarkable clarity. This radical egalitarian principle forms the ethical foundation of Stoic leadership, a perspective that remains startlingly relevant in our modern globalized economy, where talent knows no geographic or social boundaries. The embodiment of this principle can be seen in Marcus Aurelius's governance. Despite his imperial birthright, he consistently prioritized capability over pedigree, famously elevating competent individuals from humble origins to positions of significant responsibility. This wasn't merely pragmatic statecraft. It reflected his deep Stoic conviction that true human worth emerges from developed character and demonstrated ability rather than the random circumstances of one's birth. Today's leaders inherit this philosophical imperative to create organizations where opportunity follows talent rather than privilege. Historical precedents powerfully validate this approach. The Roman Empire's unprecedented longevity and success stemmed in large part from its relatively meritocratic system, a stark contrast to the rigid caste structures of contemporary civilizations. Rome's willingness to integrate talented foreigners and emancipated slaves into its power structure created a dynamic society. Cicero's rise from provincial equestrian roots to become Rome's greatest orator exemplifies how meritocracies unlock hidden potential that rigid hierarchies suppress. These historical examples demonstrate the competitive advantage societies gain when they access the full spectrum of human capability rather than limiting themselves to traditional elites. Contemporary research provides compelling empirical support for this ancient wisdom. McKinsey's extensive diversity matters studies reveal that companies in the top quartile for ethnic and cultural diversity outperform industry peers by 36% in profitability. Neuroscience research from the Neuro Leadership Institute shows diverse teams solve complex problems 60% faster than homogeneous groups. For the Stoic leader, these aren't merely progressive ideals, but irrefutable facts. Diversity of background naturally fosters diversity of thought, which in turn drives innovation, resilience, and organizational adaptability in an increasingly complex business environment. Implementing this principle requires rigorous self-discipline and systematic approaches. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics long understood, that all humans harbor unconscious biases that can distort judgment. The effective leader acknowledges these inherent prejudices while developing structures to mitigate their influence. This involves creating objective evaluation criteria that distinguish essential qualifications from irrelevant personal characteristics, much as Marcus Aurelius practiced separating factual impressions from subjective judgments. Practical applications include blind resume screening, structured interview protocols with standardized scoring rubrics, and skills-based assessment centers that institutionalize fairness in hiring processes. The business case for meritocratics. Hiring has become undeniable in the knowledge economy. Boston Consulting Group's comprehensive research demonstrates that companies with above-average diversity generate 45% of their revenues from innovation, compared to just 26% for less diverse organizations. This innovation premium represents what Stoic philosophy would describe as the full actualization of human potential, the multiplicative effect of diverse perspectives addressing complex challenges. Companies like Google and Apple attribute much of their success to their ability to identify and harness exceptional talent from unexpected sources and backgrounds. Yet the Stoic approach transcends mere utilitarian benefits. Epictetus's teaching that all rational beings share in universal reason establishes an ethical imperative for equal consideration. Merit-based hiring practices honor this profound philosophical truth while simultaneously creating more effective, dynamic organizations. In our modern workplace, where globalization has created truly multicultural teams and remote work has dissolved traditional geographic barriers, the Stoic leader applies these timeless principles to new challenges by focusing relentlessly on essential virtues and capabilities rather than superficial characteristics. Organizations that consistently implement meritocratic hiring develop powerful competitive advantages. They become talent magnets, attracting exceptional individuals who value fairness and opportunity. They avoid the stagnation and blind spots of groupthink that plague homogeneous organizations. Most importantly, they fulfill the highest Stoic ideal of creating environments where human potential can flourish without artificial constraints. As Marcus Aurelius reflected in his Meditations, what injures the hive injures the bee. Any barrier that prevents talent from rising harms both the individual and the collective organism of the organization. Lesson 3. Generous forgiveness and strength-based deployment. Stoic leadership philosophy views human mistakes not as weaknesses to be punished, but as opportunities for growth. Seneca observed, "To err is human, but to persist in error is diabolical." This perspective forms the foundation of a leadership style that balances compassion with demands for improvement, a balance that transforms failures into valuable lessons. Emperor Marcus Aurelius exemplified this principle in action. When his most trusted general, Avidius Cassius, betrayed him, Aurelius responded not with vengeance, but with remarkable restraint. He acknowledged Cassius's previous contributions, even while addressing the act of rebellion. This approach, evaluating a person's entire body of work rather than a single failure, strengthened the loyalty of his other commanders. Modern leaders face similar situations when team members fall short of expectations, and the Stoic response remains equally relevant today. Modern neuroscience confirms the power of this approach. Research by Harvard's Amy Edmondson on psychological safety reveals that teams which embrace and learn from failure demonstrate 300% higher innovation performance compared to punitive work environments. The brain literally functions more effectively when not constrained by fear of punishment, a truth the Stoics anticipated when advocating rational rather than emotional responses to mistakes. Applying this principle requires 3 Stoic disciplines of thought. First comes the discipline of perspective, viewing mistakes as natural steps in the learning process rather than character flaws. Epictetus taught that we control our responses, not external events, including how we interpret others' errors. Second is the discipline of proportion, assessing failures in their proper context. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, ask yourself, Does this really matter in the grand scheme? Most workplace mistakes are correctable and often provide valuable lessons. Third is the discipline of improvement, focusing on solutions rather than blame. The Stoic leader asks, how can we prevent recurrence, rather than who failed? Business history offers compelling evidence. When Thomas Edison's factory burned down in 1914, destroying years of research, his response, "All our mistakes are now gone. Thank God we can start fresh," perfectly embodied this Stoic mindset. Modern tech companies like Intuit institutionalize this approach through failure celebrations that analyze mistakes without personal attacks. The strength-based deployment aspect builds on this foundation. Gallup research shows employees who use their strengths daily show 6 times higher engagement. Stoic leaders implement this through quarterly talent audits, matching skills to projects, creating failure resumes, documenting lessons learned, training managers in strength spotting, and designing roles around individuals' natural assets. This dual approach, forgiving weaknesses while maximizing strengths, creates resilient, adaptable teams. Psychological safety enables measured risk-taking, while proper talent deployment ensures those risks are calculated and productive. The result achieves what the Stoics called eudaimonia, human flourishing, at organizational scale. To implement effectively, leaders should develop multidimensional evaluation systems that assess employees across various situations for a comprehensive view of true capabilities. Establishing mechanisms for learning from mistakes transforms each failure into a case study for team analysis and growth. Fostering a culture of constructive feedback encourages mutual improvement among colleagues. Creating safe experimentation spaces allows employees to test new ideas within controlled parameters. Most importantly, connecting individual work to larger purpose helps each team member find meaning in their contributions. As Seneca wrote, "No one can live happily who lives only for themselves." An organization becomes truly strong when each member finds meaning in their work, and the Stoic leader creates the environment for this meaningful connection. By combining wise tolerance with strategic talent deployment, this third principle not only enhances performance, but builds sustainable organizational culture, where people dare to think and act while taking responsibility. This represents the true art of Stoic leadership. The implementation requires building evaluation systems that assess employees through multiple lenses, establishing processes to extract lessons from failures, developing feedback cultures focused on mutual growth, creating safe spaces for innovation, and most crucially, helping each individual connect their work to larger purpose. When employees see how their strengths contribute to meaningful outcomes, they bring their full potential to work each day, exactly as the Stoics envisioned ideal human endeavor. This principle's power lies in its dual focus, clearing away the fear of failure, while systematically matching people to roles where they can excel. Modern organizations that master this balance, like Google's famous 20% time policy that led to innovations such as Gmail, demonstrate how Stoic wisdom translates into tangible business results. The leader's role becomes creating the conditions where excellence can emerge naturally from each team member's authentic strengths, a vision both ancient and urgently modern. Lesson 4. Unleashing potential and cultivating loyalty. The Stoic approach to leadership recognizes that true organizational strength emerges not through control, but through the voluntary commitment of people who feel genuinely valued. This principle finds its roots in Epictetus's profound observation that no great thing is created suddenly, reminding us that human potential unfolds gradually, like a fruit ripening on the vine. The Stoic leader understands that loyalty blossoms when people see their growth as intertwined with the organization's success, a concept Marcus Aurelius expressed when he wrote, "What benefits the hive benefits the bee." This ancient wisdom finds remarkable validation in modern organizational science, where research consistently shows that companies investing in employee development achieve 30–50% higher engagement and retention rates. The practical implementation of this principle begins with connecting daily work to meaningful purpose. Just as Marcus Aurelius framed his imperial duties as service to a greater cosmic order, contemporary leaders must help employees see how their contributions create real impact. A powerful example comes from pharmaceutical company Merck, whose decision to donate the drug Mectizan to combat river blindness in developing nations, despite having no profit potential, created such profound pride among employees that it fueled decades of innovation and commitment. This demonstrates how noble purpose, when authentically embodied, unlocks discretionary effort that financial incentives alone cannot match. Creating pathways for growth represents the second critical component. Seneca's concept of continuous ease, self-renewal, manifests today in structured mentorship programs and carefully designed stretch assignments. General Electric's famed leadership pipeline, which produced an extraordinary number of Fortune 500 CEOs, operated on this exact principle. By systematically identifying high-potential individuals and giving them progressively challenging roles across different business units, GE not only developed exceptional leaders but also cultivated deep organizational loyalty. The psychological mechanism at work here reflects fundamental Stoic teachings. When people are challenged at the edge of their capabilities, they experience the satisfaction of self-mastery that Epictetus described as true freedom. Granting meaningful autonomy serves as the third essential practice. The Stoic emphasis on self-determination finds modern expression in decentralized decision-making structures. Valve Corporation, the innovative gaming company, operates without formal managers. Employees select their own projects and form temporary teams based on interest and expertise. This radical approach has maintained industry-leading creativity for decades, while achieving employee retention rates triple the tech industry average. The success of such models confirms the Stoic belief that when people are trusted with real responsibility, they rise to meet it with both competence and dedication. Recognition forms the final pillar of this approach. Following Zeno's practice of celebrating virtue wherever it appears, effective leaders create systems that make excellence visible. Technology company Atlassian's peer recognition program, where employees publicly acknowledge colleagues' contributions through a kudos system, has created organic networks of appreciation that reinforce desired behaviors far more effectively than top-down rewards. This aligns with modern psychological research, showing that authentic recognition triggers dopamine release in the brain, creating positive reinforcement loops that sustain high performance. The business case for this approach becomes undeniable during times of crisis. When Southwest Airlines faced the 2008 financial meltdown, their historic investment in employee development paid unexpected dividends. While competitors conducted massive layoffs, Southwest employees voluntarily took pay cuts to save their colleagues' jobs, demonstrating loyalty no compensation package could purchase. This real-world example perfectly illustrates Seneca's observation that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body, showing how adversity can deepen commitment when people feel genuinely valued. Modern measurement tools now allow us to quantify what the Stoics knew intuitively. Organizational network analysis can reveal hidden patterns of influence and energy flow within companies, while pulse surveys track engagement fluctuations in real time. The Stoic leader uses these tools not for surveillance but to identify where potential lies dormant and where growth opportunities exist. Practical implementation begins with simple but powerful steps, like monthly stay interviews that proactively address engagement drivers, protected innovation sandboxes for experimental projects, and transparent promotion criteria tied to capability development rather than tenure. Ultimately, this principle transcends talent management tactics to touch on fundamental questions of human dignity. In our era of rapid technological change and social fragmentation, the Stoic approach to unleashing potential offers both competitive advantage and moral compass. By creating conditions where people can discover and deploy their best selves, leaders honor the deepest Stoic truth, that work at its highest expression serves not just organizational goals, but human flourishing. This is the path to building organizations that endure because they are loved rather than merely managed, where loyalty flows naturally from mutual growth rather than being artificially enforced. Lesson 5. Overlooking minor flaws for exceptional talent. The Stoic philosophy of leadership embraces a fundamental truth about human nature, that excellence rarely comes without imperfections. Marcus Aurelius, while leading the vast Roman Empire, frequently reminded himself in his meditations that the people he worked with would inevitably display all manner of flaws and shortcomings. This clear-eyed acceptance of human imperfection forms the bedrock of an effective approach to talent management, one that distinguishes between trivial personality quirks and substantive character virtues. Historical examples abound, where leaders achieved remarkable success by focusing on core strengths while tolerating peripheral flaws. The Roman Republic's political system thrived precisely because it could harness the talents of brilliant but flawed individuals like Cato the Younger, whose uncompromising principles made him difficult to work with but invaluable in maintaining constitutional integrity. Similarly, the Allied victory in World War II depended on leaders like Winston Churchill, whose strategic genius outweighed his well-documented personal eccentricities and difficult temperament. Modern organizational psychology confirms this ancient wisdom. Research from MIT's Human Dynamics Laboratory demonstrates that the highest-performing teams often combine diverse cognitive styles and personality types, creating productive friction that drives innovation. The Stoic leader understands that what might appear as a weakness in one context can become a strength in another. A detail-oriented perfectionist might slow down creative brainstorming but prove indispensable in quality control processes. A brash, unconventional thinker might disrupt team harmony but generate breakthrough ideas that transform entire industries. Implementing this principle requires what Epictetus called the discipline of discernment, the ability to separate essential qualities from incidental characteristics. This begins with clearly defining the non-negotiable virtues required for each role, whether it's integrity for financial positions or creativity for design roles. Equally important is identifying which behaviors, while perhaps annoying or unconventional, don't materially impact performance or team cohesion. The technology sector provides compelling examples of this approach in action. Many of Silicon Valley's most successful companies actively seek out culture add rather than culture fit, recognizing that slightly abrasive visionaries often drive more progress than uniformly pleasant but conventional thinkers. Psychological research helps explain why this approach succeeds. Humans naturally fall prey to the horn effect, allowing minor negative traits to overshadow substantial strengths in our perception of others. The Stoic leader cultivates awareness of this cognitive bias through deliberate reflection and structured evaluation processes. Many professional sports teams exemplify this balanced perspective. Coaches routinely tolerate superstar athletes' idiosyncrasies because their on-field contributions outweigh any locker room challenges. Practical application of this principle involves creating evaluation systems that separate core competencies from personality preferences. Many leading organizations now use structured interview protocols and skills-based assessments that focus on demonstrable abilities rather than subjective impressions. Progressive companies have moved beyond traditional performance reviews to implement continuous feedback systems that address problematic behaviors early while recognizing substantive contributions. The military offers particularly instructive models of this balance between standards and flexibility. Elite units like the British SAS maintain exacting requirements for combat skills and teamwork, while often tolerating and even valuing the unconventional personalities that frequently accompany exceptional operational capabilities. This pragmatic approach produces fighting forces that combine discipline with adaptability, qualities equally valuable in corporate environments. The neuroscience behind this phenomenon reveals why it works so effectively. When people feel accepted despite their minor flaws, their brains release oxytocin, the neurochemical associated with trust and bonding. This creates what psychologists call psychological safety, enabling individuals to focus their energy on performance rather than self-protection. Google's Project Aristotle research identified this as the single most important factor in high-performing teams. Ultimately, this principle reflects the Stoic commitment to pragmatism over perfectionism. As Seneca observed, if we pretend to have no faults, we make the faults we have seem incurable. By focusing on essential virtues and strategic contributions while accepting human imperfections, leaders build organizations capable of achieving great things with real, multifaceted people rather than idealized abstractions. The most effective leaders understand that tolerance for minor flaws isn't about lowering standards, but about recognizing that excellence comes in imperfect packages. This approach creates cultures where diverse talents can thrive, where people feel valued for their substantive contributions rather than penalized for harmless idiosyncrasies. In an era that increasingly values authenticity over polish, this Stoic wisdom proves more relevant than ever. Lesson 6. Balancing firmness and flexibility in leadership. The Stoic approach to leadership embraces what Marcus Aurelius called the art of the possible, the ability to maintain unwavering principles while adapting to changing circumstances. This delicate balance between steadfastness and adaptability represents one of the most challenging yet essential skills in effective leadership. The Stoics understood that rigidity breeds resentment, while excessive flexibility erodes trust, and they developed practical wisdom for navigating this tension. Historical models demonstrate this principle's enduring value. The Roman Empire's longevity stemmed partly from its ability to enforce universal laws while respecting local customs, a policy the Stoic Emperor Hadrian perfected during his extensive travels across the provinces. Similarly, Queen Elizabeth's reign flourished through her via media approach, maintaining Protestant reforms while tolerating Catholic practices that didn't threaten the state. These leaders grasped that lasting authority requires both a strong backbone and supple joints. Modern organizational research confirms this ancient insight. Studies of high-performing teams reveal that the most effective leaders score equally high on both task orientation, focus on results, and relationship orientation, focus on people. This dual capacity, what psychologists call integrative complexity, enables leaders to uphold standards while remaining responsive to individual needs and situational demands. Implementing this balance begins with distinguishing between negotiable and non-negotiable matters. Epictetus's core teaching about what is and isn't in our control applies directly here. Leaders must identify which principles demand unwavering adherence and which practices can adapt to circumstances. Military organizations exemplify this distinction well. They maintain ironclad discipline in combat operations while showing remarkable flexibility in peacetime training approaches. The neuroscience behind this approach reveals why it works. When people experience consistent expectations paired with situational adaptability, their brains operate in the optimal zone between anxiety and complacency. This creates what researchers call secure-based leadership, environments where team members feel both challenged and supported, producing peak performance without burnout. Practical application involves developing what the Stoics called the disciplined will, the capacity to stand firm on essentials while bending on incidentals. Successful leaders achieve this through several key practices, clearly communicating core values that never change while regularly reviewing operational methods that can. Establishing transparent decision-making criteria that separate fundamental principles from implementation details, and modeling the behavior of holding fast to ethical standards while remaining open to better technical solutions. Technology companies provide compelling contemporary examples. Firms like IBM and Microsoft have maintained their cultural identities across decades of industry transformation by distinguishing between enduring values, like customer focus, and transient practices, like specific product development methods. This Stoic balance enables them to evolve without losing their essence. The benefits of this approach multiply during crises. Leaders who have practiced balanced flexibility can respond decisively to emergencies without abandoning principles. New Zealand's response to the COVID-19 pandemic illustrated this perfectly. Strict lockdowns were implemented with exceptional transparency and adaptability to local needs, producing both effective virus containment and high public trust. Ultimately, this leadership balance reflects the Stoic view of nature itself, systems that maintain equilibrium through constant adjustment. Just as a tree bends in the wind without breaking, the effective leader develops what the Stoics called eustatheia, stability in motion. This isn't compromise or inconsistency, but rather the sophisticated ability to apply timeless wisdom to changing circumstances. The measure of true leadership lies not in rigid consistency or chaotic flexibility, but in the wisdom to Know when each approach serves the greater good. As Seneca observed, the wise man will change his plan, but never his purpose. In our era of rapid change and complexity, this Stoic balance becomes not just advantageous, but essential for sustainable success. Leaders who master it create organizations that weather storms while staying true to course, the hallmark of enduring achievement. Lesson 7. Adaptive talent utilization. The Stoic philosophy of leadership culminates in the principle of adaptive talent deployment, what the ancient thinkers called the art of fitting roles to souls. This final pillar represents the dynamic application of all previous principles, requiring leaders to become skilled observers of human potential and architects of organizational flexibility. Marcus Aurelius captured this concept when he wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it," reminding us that effective leadership means flowing with circumstance rather than resisting inevitable transformations. Historical exemplars demonstrate this principle's enduring power. The Roman military's unmatched effectiveness stemmed partly from its system of assigning soldiers to ever-changing roles based on emerging skills rather than fixed positions. Legionaries might serve as engineers building bridges one month and as frontline fighters the next, their duties determined by evolving campaign needs and demonstrated competencies. Similarly, the Venetian Republic's remarkable longevity owed much to its practice of rotating leaders through different governmental functions, preventing stagnation while developing versatile statesmen. Modern organizational science has quantified what these ancient societies practiced intuitively. Research from the Corporate Executive Board shows that companies practicing dynamic talent allocation achieve 2.5 times greater revenue growth compared to those with rigid structures. The Stoic leader understands that human capabilities aren't static but evolve through varied challenges and experiences, much like Seneca's description of the soul as a flame that grows brighter when fed with new fuel. Implementing this principle requires what Epictetus called the discipline of perception, seeing beyond surface-level job descriptions to recognize transferable skills and latent potential. Contemporary organizations operationalize this through talent marketplaces that match employees to projects based on skills rather than titles, and through tours of duty systems where high-potential individuals rotate through critical functions. Consulting firms like McKinsey have long practiced this approach, deliberately exposing young associates to diverse industries and problem types to accelerate their development. The neuroscience behind this approach reveals why it succeeds. When brains encounter novel challenges within their stretch zone, they form new neural connections at accelerated rates, a phenomenon psychologists call cognitive scaffolding. The Stoic leader intentionally creates these growth opportunities by moving promising individuals across functions before they become too comfortable, applying Seneca's advice that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Practical application involves creating systems that balance organizational needs with individual growth trajectories. Forward-thinking companies achieve this through quarterly talent reviews that assess both current performance and future potential, skills inventories that catalog emerging capabilities across the organization, and project-based work structures that allow for flexible team formations. Tech giants like Google institutionalize this through 20% time policies that encourage employees to contribute to projects outside their core responsibilities. The military offers particularly sophisticated models of adaptive deployment. Special operations forces like the Navy SEALs constantly reassess and redeploy personnel based on mission requirements and evolving competencies, with senior leaders serving as talent scouts who match operators to tasks with surgical precision. This practice embodies the Stoic ideal of viewing human resources not as fixed assets, but as dynamic capabilities that can be reconfigured as circumstances demand. The benefits of this approach multiply during periods of disruption. Organizations with adaptive talent systems can respond to market shifts by rapidly redeploying human capital where it's most needed, without the delays of external hiring. During the COVID-19 pandemic, companies like Ford and Dyson famously repurposed manufacturing talent to produce ventilators, while retailers trained store associates for customer service roles in suddenly overwhelmed e-commerce divisions. Ultimately, this principle represents the full flowering of Stoic leadership, the ability to see human potential as both limitless and ever-changing. As Epictetus taught, circumstances don't make the man, they reveal him to himself. The adaptive leader creates circumstances that continually reveal and develop new dimensions of their team's capabilities, understanding that today's marketing specialist might become tomorrow's product innovator, or that an operations manager might transform into a visionary strategist given the right challenges. The true measure of this approach appears not in organizational charts, but in the energy and engagement of team members constantly stretching into new capabilities. In our era of relentless change, this Stoic wisdom becomes essential for building resilient organizations where people don't just fill roles, but continually outgrow them. As Marcus Aurelius reflected, the universe is transformation, life is opinion. The adaptive leader masters both, transforming organizations by recognizing the fluid opinions of talent about their own potential. Conclusion: the Stoic leaders. Path to organizational excellence. The 7 Stoic principles of leadership form an interconnected system for building organizations that thrive amid complexity while honoring human potential. From understanding individual strengths to adaptive talent deployment, these timeless concepts reveal that true leadership is less about control than about creating conditions for excellence to emerge naturally. The Stoic leader, like a skilled gardener, tends to the ecosystem rather than forcing growth, knowing that while sunlight and nutrients can be provided, the flowering of talent follows its own natural rhythm. Modern neuroscience and organizational research now confirm what the Stoics intuited centuries ago: that workplaces combining clear purpose, psychological safety, and growth opportunities unleash unprecedented innovation and commitment. Companies embracing these principles, from the Roman legions of antiquity to today's most adaptive organizations, demonstrate that resilience stems not from rigid systems, but from cultivating human potential with wisdom and discernment. The true test of Stoic leadership appears not during calm periods, but in moments of crisis, when principles matter more than policies. Like Marcus Aurelius guiding Rome through plague and war, today's leaders face pandemics, market disruptions, and social transformations that demand both steadfastness and flexibility. The Stoic compass provides orientation, reminding us that organizations flourish when they balance high standards with humane understanding, individual growth with collective purpose. Ultimately, this philosophy transforms leadership from a position of authority to a practice of service. By viewing talent as ends rather than means, Stoic leaders build enterprises that succeed because they elevate people rather than simply employ them. In our age of rapid change and cultural fragmentation, these ancient principles offer both practical toolkit and moral foundation, proving once more, as Seneca observed, that wisdom is always ancient, yet always new. The organizations that will shape tomorrow aren't those chasing temporary advantages, but those cultivating the enduring conditions for human excellence to blossom. This is the legacy of Stoic leadership, creating workplaces worthy of the people who inhabit them. End of script. Thank you for listening, everyone.